Broadway Beat, Broadway Beat, Broadway Beat.
Hello, I'm Richard Ridge, and welcome to Broadway Beat, our weekly half-hour behind-the-scenes look at the very best of a New York theater on Broadway and beyond. This week we'll take you to the recent one-night-only concert presentation of the Tony Award-winning Cy Coleman, Betty Comden, and Adolph Green musical On the 20th Century, which was a benefit for the Actors Fund of America. We'll also visit with the cast of Richard Greenberg's latest play, The Naked Girl on the Appian Way, which stars Richard Thomas and welcomes back to Broadway Jill Clayburgh. But we start things off in Shubert Alley and give you a peek at the 19th annual Broadway Flea Market. This yearly event is where the New York theater community cleans out their closets to raise money for Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS. This year's grand total was an astounding $544,000. Our Broadway Beat table, I am pleased to announce, raised $20,000. This wonderful event is where casts and company members of dozens of shows greet fans and sell memorabilia, including costumes, autographs, signed playbills, posters, and much more. The highlight of the flea market is the grand auction, in which singular items and opportunities, such as walk-ons in Broadway shows, television shows, and films, are available to the highest bidder. Well, here we are at the Avenue Q table.
Yes, this is the Avenue Q table, and oh, this is nice. And it's for a good cause, so come on down and buy stuff because I don't want to have to carry all this home.
Now, why don't you show us some of the things you have on your table today?
I would love to show you. Well, we've got Sucks to Be Me buttons, and we've got bracelets, we've got magnets, we've got stickers, we've got cupcakes. Cupcakes are delicious. The people are fun, the fans are here, and we're making a lot of money for Broadway Cares. Mm-hmm.
Our big seller is this board that is broken on stage every night by Deborah Craig. She does a karate kick during 6 languages. So each half we're selling, we've decorated them, signed them, and we're selling them for $30, and we had a stack probably this high, and we have about 5 left. So those are going really fast. These are photos that are taken during the song Woe Is Me. There's a throwaway camera that we use on stage. We developed them and they've signed them and we're selling those. We get signed t-shirts, signed programs, and we got a big raffle that's doing really well right now. We have, you win 2 tickets and a dinner for 2 worth about $350, and there's 5 chances to win, and those are going really great too.
We have a t-shirt signed by Ben Vereen, some by Megan Hilty, Shoshana Bean. We have autographed photos of Idina Menzel that she signed, each one of us by hand for us, so we could sell them here. Different ones of her backstage getting her makeup on. And then we also have photos of all of other past and current company members over here. We have our Broadway Cares pin for Wicked that we just designed this year to sell for Broadway Cares. We have autographed posters that are signed by casts. We have fans send things into Idina and Kristen Chenoweth all the time, and they sign them and donated them to us to sell. We have these calendars that Rue McClanahan signed and kissed because she's very big into Easter seals and Save the Animals, so she signed all that. And we had our Easter bonnet back here, which sold earlier today. That was sort of the most remarkable piece. And we have a big pallet of corn over there from the actual set that we're trying to sell still, if anyone's interested.
These are hats that are made by Lisa Gaida, who's one of the dancers in our show. They're all completely original, and she's fantastic, and they've been very popular since we've had them out on the table. They only just got here a little while ago, so all kinds of cool stuff. We have the Slip Slap shirts, which are completely, these are completely unique. They were made for opening night in Chicago, and let's see, the popcorn bowls and all sorts of great things. Scripts. This is the pilot episode of It's All Relative, which Chris Sieber did. And right over here is an original painting that was done by a friend of one of the dancers in the show, which I think is gorgeous. I'm hoping it doesn't sell because I'm going to try and get it myself.
Well, we're here at the Mamma Mia table, yes. And let's talk about some of the wonderful things you've been selling today.
We've been selling autographed posters, aprons, barbecuing aprons. Even though it's kind of late to barbecue, you can still wear them in the kitchen if you're a sloppy baker, you get all over you. Golf balls and tees. Couple of shirts worn by a couple of cast members. We also have this lovely crocheted table centerpiece. It's actually crocheted during the show by one of the actresses, Sandy Rosenberg, on the show. It took her a year to actually do this because she only crochets for maybe like 10 minutes.
These are Harvey Firestein's voice for your voicemail, and they're selling for $5 each, and it's a personalized message for you right on your phone.
I know that was a really hot item when he was in Hairspray, and I'm sure it's a very hot item here today.
Yep, just as hot, and they're selling pretty quickly, actually.
Now, you've done a lot of this stuff for Broadway Cares. Talk about the reaction of the buyers today and just being a part of Broadway Cares in general.
Today was great. The weather held out, which was wonderful, and we had a lot of really enthusiastic buyers who wanted to come and they really wanted to donate. Over at the Phantom table, huge success. We had like 7 tables. It was one of the biggest years ever. We're raising so much money there. Here we're raising a lot of money. Rosie's brought in a lot. She came by today. She was buying things over at Phantom with us and doing some stuff over here. And the crowd is great. It's more crowded than I've probably ever seen it before. And there's so many shows going right now that there's lots of great things to buy and lots of stuff to dig your hands into and find.
Now, are you for sale $1 plus 1 drink minimum?
$1 plus 1 drink minimum.
Richard Greenberg, the Tony Award-winning playwright of Take Me Out, is back at the Roundabout Theatre Company with his latest play, The Naked Girl on the Appian Way, which stars Richard Thomas, Matthew Morrison, and welcomes back to Broadway after too long an absence, Jill Clayburgh. We dropped by the American Airlines Theatre for a chat. This funny new comedy, under the direction of Tony Award winner Doug Hughes, is about Bess, a successful cookbook author played by Miss Clayburgh, and her husband Jeffrey, a distracted genius played by Mr. Thomas, whose lives are upended when their 2 children, played by Matthew Morrison and Susan Kelsey Watson, return from a year in Europe and reveal surprising news that stretches the family beyond their breaking point.
You know what's difficult, Mom? Being a male librarian in the suburbs, that's difficult. Waking up every morning so that I can be a male librarian in the suburbs, that's difficult, Mom. And not ever being the one who gets picked, okay? That's difficult.
You've always been picked. You were a very popular little boy.
Not for sports.
Well, you weren't good at sports.
Not for dances.
You were picked for dances.
Not for school elective offices.
You have to campaign for those.
Not for admission to the college of my choice.
You went to Harvard.
That was not the college of my choice.
Still, it's a very good school, Bill.
Undergraduate? Undergraduate? It's a degree mill. It's the Ohio State of the Ivy League.
I think the play is exquisitely written. I think the play is very, very funny, and the comedy writing is so facile and so deft that I hope people don't miss the real content of the play. It has rich, rich content about family, about politics, about the way we live our lives, and about love. And you know, what a wonderful thing to have a story about the Garden of Eden when Adam and Eve transgress and don't have to leave.
I had a really hard time. It was because I was doing double duty for a while. I was doing rehearsing in the daytime and doing Piazza at night. And it was a hard thing to leave because it was such a beautiful, and it was so from the heart. And we were just, it was such a family like I've never known a family in a show before. And coming to this it was really weird, but now I have a social life. I can drink a beer when I want to, and I can kind of hang out with my friends and not have to worry about my voice. And it's really, I really do like this life. I like having my life again.
And we looked out the window, and there was this girl.
Okay, this is insane.
And she was standing.
No, not really standing.
No, it was like,
more like she was
rising
that's right.
up out of the grass. It was like, what was it like, Jules?
Like the Venus de Milo.
Except with grass.
Jeffrey.
Because she was naked.
But not just
and there was this guy with her.
It was more about the light.
The
angle of the light.
The tourists
it was
all
so
freaked.
Incredibly beautiful. Yeah. It was something
but
from the golden age.
It was amazing.
It was immense.
It was everything.
The show is about a family who loves each other deeply and really wants each other to understand the other's point of view. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's what it's about. And other than that, they're just a group of loving people who are excited about where they're at in life right now, you know? Yeah.
He's not necessarily a character that maybe one would describe as attractive personality-wise. He's a difficult character. But from an actor's standpoint, he just goes so many different places in the course of the play. it's a very interesting character to play. And I, in playing it, have learned to love him. I think with the, I don't know how much I should say for your audience that hasn't seen it and stuff, but, he's a difficult character. At one point, his father says, you've got the most grandiose inferiority complex I've ever seen. That's the kind of guy. But really, very, that's just a very thin veneer, and underneath is a very vulnerable, very sort of like little boy kind of, heart that's there, and it's really fun to play those two really sort of, maybe not antithesis, but opposite kind of forces, that coexist. It's just really fun.
And all these rich bitch actresses like that, I can't get work, it's because I'm a woman. Don't limit yourself to that narrow definition, honey. You're an untalented woman. The whole thing has just been a ball. I haven't had a bad moment. Yeah, nothing but gravy.
Would you just reflect on the Dick Van Dyke Show, of what that was like working on that wonderful thing that lives generation after generation, and what that was like?
But we didn't know we had a hit, And
when did you realize it?
I guess when they started winning the Emmys, but nobody ever had the idea that it was going to, have the long life that it has had.
I think let's just say it's very funny, right? Okay, that's a given. But I think it's about who is your family, who is it okay to love, what are the boundaries of taboos in terms of love and affection, and what makes a family, and how do you incorporate the sort of things that you think you can't overcome, and you do, and then you move on.
Look what I found.
I know. The picture of the naked girl on the Appian Way.
No. This is the other picture.
Oh.
The one we took when we got back.
In emulation.
You were so beautiful.
I was. Only it wasn't the Appian Way.
No.
It was the Catskills.
Same obnoxious busload of tourists, though.
True.
The Actors Fund of America recently presented their 5th annual Broadway benefit concert. It was the classic Tony Award-winning Cy Coleman, Betty Comden, and Adolph Green screwball musical comedy On the 20th Century. Set on the 20th Century Limited from Chicago to New York circa 1932, the musical follows the efforts of a grandiose theatrical impresario, Oscar Jaffe, played by the dynamic Douglas Sills, who must persuade glamorous film star and former lover, Lily Garland, played by the illuminous Marin, to appear in his new stage production that will save his career and his life. Rounding out the cast is the dashing Christopher Siebert as Lily's lover, Bruce Granite, Brad Oscar and Brooks Ashmanskis as Jaffe's loyal henchmen, and the madcap Joanne Worley as religious zealot Letitia Primrose.
Amazing. It was just so great to do an old school musical comedy that, like, A, brought down the house, B, when you're an artistic producer, there's like a joy to knowing like you kind of cast someone in a part and then they got so much, like to see Joanne back on Broadway, like getting a second curtain call and to have people realize how brilliant Doug Sills is, like that was worth it all to me. I just love letting people shine. I just loved it. I was so happy that people now, I feel like, let them get a Broadway show, let Joanne go back to Broadway, let Doug go back to Broadway. I mean, just so happy for them.
You know, what's interesting, this was a heavy book show, unlike some of the other shows you had done, because this is a very comedic book. And Peter and you did such a beautiful job. Everybody landed where those jokes had to land.
I will throw that to Peter Flynn. He rehearsed those scenes like within an inch. I mean, because a lot of these concert things, it's like, look at the book, what's my line? I mean, the timing of it when it was like, I'm so sad you're gone, sweetie, get out! I mean, like, all the timing, it was impeccable. So yeah, brava, Peter Flynn, brava.
But what was fascinating about your speech tonight was you really have brought the orchestra back to Broadway. And that was a really wonderful thing because there are whole sections, like you said, those shows have, you know, most Broadway musicals have maybe 9 or 10 pieces in an orchestra pit. How many pieces did you have up there tonight?
It was 27 with a full harp, viola section. Mamma Mia has 9. Wicked, even though Wicked has a lot, has a string quartet. It's like when you hear like the original 9 and then you hear the revival, it's literally traumatic for me. It is devastating that this is the Broadway of today. These thin, over-mic'd, reedy, awful. That's why Fiddler on the Roof, delicious, wonderful town, bring back the full orchestra. I mean, wasn't it just like so gorgeous to hear those sounds? You can't emulate them on a machine. You can't. Pay the extra like $5,000 a week. Who gives a shit? Shoot.
Oh, I had a lot of fun. You know, when they asked me to come do this silly little thing, I just thought, well, hell, it'll be my singing debut, my Broadway singing debut. Oh, what the hell?
So what was it like? Because we went to the rehearsal last week, and Peter Flynn said he had the best time sitting with you. That first rehearsal you had together, he said all we did was laugh together.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm just stunned by, I mean, the musical theater people, what they can do and do so quickly. I mean, the dancers and, yeah, God, you know, Marin and everybody was just, I couldn't believe what they could just turn on and do. It's amazing.
Well, you know, it was the first Broadway show I ever saw, so the show has always meant an extraordinary amount to me. And when I heard they were doing it, I picked up the phone, I called Seth. I said, Seth, I got to be a part of this. I'll do whatever. I just want to be a part of this evening. And then to be playing with Brooks, who I spent the last year with at the producers, was, you know, I mean, well, again, what more can you ask for? Great material, someone fun to really bounce off of. Yeah, it was great.
Well, it felt fabulous. This was really a very exciting evening. The show is so good. The performers are so brilliant. And to be a part of this particular vehicle when it's really at the top of its game is really exciting.
Phyllis Newman was there tonight. Harold Prince, the original director.
Oh my God. My heart be still. My heart be still. But it really, the audience was just so fabulous that it made it all sail. It just sailed.
You know, you were so wonderful in rehearsal, but you know, tonight is like your opening and your closing all the same night. You're like all shot out of a cannon. How does that feel?
Well, it all happened. We knew it was going to be one night, and that's what we built up for, and that's our job to do the best we can for this one night, and then say bye-bye. And that's exactly what we're doing. Repent or go to hell.
It's thrilling, actually. I was exhausted at first, but when you're a long-running show, you know, you get in a rut and whatnot. Not a rut, but you get in a routine, and this shakes up your routine, so my brain was actually working, so it was actually really invigorating to do. You know, there's a lot of sweat, and there's a lot of, like, where am I, what's doing that, which is fantastic. You start thinking more clearly, I guess, when, you know.
So one thing we noticed about this show is this is a heavy book show, but it's also a heavy comedy book show where it's really got to, the laughs have really got to lay where they've got to lay.
Well, we were making each other laugh during rehearsals the entire time, but we all knew the genre of the comedy that it is. It's somewhat broad and it's a farce. And we were hoping that we would get the reaction we did tonight because, you know, sometimes in a comedy where you don't have any rehearsal, you just throw things up and you hope for the best. And we were like, yes, we did it right, yay. Because we didn't know, although we were cracking up, but it would have been a long show if nobody laughed.
It's weird because this is your opening and your closing. This is your dress rehearsal. This is everything.
I was saying that. Doug and I shared a dressing room at the Amsterdam, and we were both saying this is kind of like, not invigorating, but it's exciting yet disappointing all at the same time, because you have that opening night feeling, but you're disappointed because that's it. You're done. It's one night only, you're done. And also kind of nice that we don't have to do it again, because...
Did you know the show going into this? Was this one of your favorites, or did you know the cast album?
I had heard everybody say, I love that show, I love that show. And I had never seen it, I had never heard it, and they kept talking about it. And then they gave me the script and the CD, and I read the script along with the CD, and I said, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. And it took rehearsal, working with these clowns, that I finally went, oh! And it was epiphany. An epiphany.
Last week is sort of the first week. We only get like a week and a half. Yeah, but I think it was well cast so that we were all of a mind. We all had a similar sensibility. It was easy to feed right into it. There was some discussion, but the tone became clear very quickly. And that's really a credit to the director, who was extremely prepared. And it was a lot of fun. Rehearsals it was a lot of fun.
Best part of his experience, if you could sum it up for me, has been what?
It's always being in a community that is a cast, that everybody is working towards something greater than themselves. So there's this synergy when everybody comes together. And also getting to work with Marin and Peter, Brad Oscar, and Chris Sieber, and all of those people, Joanne Worley and Brooks and everybody. So that was a real joy to be. It's a very elite group. I feel very honored to be a part of a group that would be asked to do a show like this.
Take out my cape and take out my fedora and put them on and think of me and call to mind my charismatic aura and the legacy I left to me.
Never, that is the word I speak. Never! Tell him you heard it here, tell him you heard it clear, tell him if he comes through the door, I will trample him through the floor. Tell him I'll strangle him, tell him I'll mangle him, tell him.
I was familiar with the show. I was familiar with I think the show first, I did it 20-some years ago in summer stock. I did not play Lily Gone. It was like, I was an apprentice at this theater in Michigan, the Barn Theater in Michigan. And so I was in it, and, it's 2 weeks stock, and you throw up these things, and so when I came, I actually saw the musical a few years ago at Goodspeed, because my friend Mark Jacoby played Oscar Jaffe, so I went to see him, and he was wonderful. And so it was fun to see it again. But I'm a Carole Lombard fan, and I have been for many, many years. So I actually own the movie. I've seen the movie. So I love the story, and it's so much fun. And the musical is so great. The score is, I think that's the thing that I don't think people are really that familiar with the score. And like we said, it hasn't been done on Broadway in 27 years. So it's not one of those shows that I think got into the consciousness for whatever reason. And I think people are going to be really surprised to hear this great music, especially with a huge orchestra.
Yeah, well, there are three kind of big numbers in the show that we're trying to stage in, as sort of full Broadway musical style. And then a lot we're doing more in kind of concert reading fashion. The opening number is, we're trying to make that quite something. And there's a number in the first act called Babette, which is this Franco-Prussian War number. And we're sort of doing that in crazy grand high French style. And then there's a number in the second act. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm mixing them up. Veronique is the one in the first act, and Babette is the second act, and that's kind of flappers, Somerset mom, crazy boozed-out socialites dancing around with martini glasses. So there are three kind of big numbers that we're doing, and then there are lots of others that we're doing sort of more concert style. But we'll give them their money's worth. I feel very confident.
Make way for that.
Yes, we had about 10 days to do it. I mean, on a calendar it's 2 weeks, but everybody's working gratis, so they have other conflicts to go in with, and also people are in Broadway shows. So Wednesday we would stop rehearsal at 1, Saturday and Sunday we'd stop at 1, so it was only 3 hours those days. So when you add it all up, it was about 10 full days. We do 2 runs in a rehearsal studio, and then the day of the show, the cast comes in around noon, and we start the first time with sets, lights, costumes, props, everything at about 1:30, and we have to be done by 5:30 and call it a show. So yeah, it was really quick.
Now, this is one of your favorite shows, isn't it?
It is indeed. It's one of my favorite shows. My parents saw it originally and brought me back the LP with the book and a poster, and I put it up and I'd start staging it in my room, and I know my album so well that I know where it pops and it clicks, so I can keep up with everybody. So yeah, it's near and dear to my heart, and especially because of the creative team. I've been fortunate enough to meet Adolph and Phyllis, and Hal is a dear friend, and so to be able to work on it and to emulate a little of what they originally did just meant the world to me. It was like giving back to people who raised me in this business.
She don't say yes, don't lift her dress. She saved the town, she don't lie down.